What's going on, folks? Welcome back to We the Champs. It's good to be here with you. I'm your host, Jalen, and we have a very, very special guest host in here today. This is my guy, John, future father-in-law in the near future or the far future, but not too far. How you feeling?
Doing well, doing well.
All right. Good to have you. So, this episode is because of this guy specifically. I wasn't into racing sports before, but he was just persistent and consistent with me, watching races with him, checking out the Drive to Survive. And what was that one? The Formula One movie with the Nissan driver kid.
That is oh God, was it Gran Turismo?
Gran Turismo. And that was a great movie, guys. Highly recommend. So, hey, guys, we're going to be talking some Formula One today. Vroom, vroom. Let's rev up. Don't forget to hit that like, subscribe, and comment, and let's get into some action. So, first races this weekend, Australian Grand Prix, or my bad, sorry, guys, Prix.
Prix.
The first race on the board, and from what we seen last year, the first race, they're like, oh, gosh, we don't want Max Verstappen to win and take it away. And that's exactly what happened. And he kept up that momentum for a few races. And then, it started going McLaren's favor. Other teams started winning. How important is the first race of the year going into the Formula One season?
Well, it's an interesting thing because the first race is still, they're doing a lot of testing. They just got out of testing a week ago. So a lot of the cars, they're still not quite sure how they're going to perform under a true racing environment. And it's interesting to start in Australia this year versus where they were testing at in Bahrain, which is normally the first race of the season.
Right. Okay. Sweet. Yeah, man. I'm pretty excited. So, all right. So what do we have going on? What do they typically do on Fridays?
Yeah. So they'll start since it is in Australia. So it looks like the first half of the first few races of the season is going to be in the Pacific side of the world. So because we have Australia, we have China, we have Japan, kind of back to back there. And so
yeah, I remember you saying they're doing Japan early.
Yep. And so with the schedule like that, you're going to be watching races that start at like midnight, 1 a.m. in normal East Coast time. So for the first race, Thursday will start the first practice for Australia, and that'll give you a good idea of who is going to at least qualify well come Saturday.
Okay. All right. And so from what we're looking, of course, we have Max defending the title. I'm going to say Max a lot in this one, guys. He's a beast. And from what I'm seeing, as of lately, the Red Bull car hasn't been testing pretty well in recent test drives. But you're saying this is like a common thing. They don't want to show all their cards at one time for this.
No, they're not going to show their cards to start with. The Red Bull car. Well, and it suffered. Toward about mid-season last year, you start to see the decline in the autumn in how it was handling, how it was racing. You saw a lot of frustration with Max going through the season, where he, the previous year before, he set a record for winning the most races in an entire season, where he won 21 out of 22 in 1 year.
That's depressing, bro, for the other guys. Like, damn.
And when he won them, he didn't win them just by a little margin. He was winning them by 25, 30-second margins at a time, and just there was no one that could compete with the Red Bull car. Now Adrian Newey left, so we'll see. They can say a lot of the. They can say that that his designs and the stuff of that he was not that integral to the team. But in reality, if you've noticed, the minute he did leave from Red Bull, they really started going downhill. It's still going to be a competitive car. They still probably do have one of the most solid platforms to build their car off of. I mean, they've been that way for the last few years. And it's just been really really an interesting thing. So the challenge for Red Bull this year is to get back ahead where everyone else has just started everyone's caught up. So with that being said, Max is going to win at the end of the day. He may not win every race this year, but he is going to wind up being your champion at the end of the year. It's him. It's far more than the car. Now that he is competing with people in an equal equipment, you're still seeing that Max is probably by far just the best driver on the field.
Sure enough. Now, with last season, now I know you said 20. I mean, if you're winning 21 of 22 races, that's you, and that's the advancement of the car compared to other cars. Now, I think last season he won is the first 3 or the first 4 races?
Last season he won that easily. Like it was. I mean, the last season. I'm sorry, that was the year before. I think he had a good race the first couple of races, and then things started happening.
Now, is that would you say that's more of a durability issue, or what was going on exactly with that car?
It's with that car. It could be anything. I know he had the issue where the brakes exploded in one time, and then it blew out one of the rear tires.
Yeah, that's when he had to retire.
He had to retire the car. They had the ability to keep traction. They were having a lot of traction issues. They weren't really necessarily eating tires up. They were just having, in general, just traction issues. And Max was not overly happy with the car, and they seemed to be a bit underpowered, especially about midway through the season when McLaren really caught up, and Ferrari.
Okay, peace. Now we have the other top driver on the grid, and Lando Norris, who finally got his first race win last year, and he only grew hungrier after having that and losing again. That just makes it worse after you win and you're not winning another race. Now, from what we heard from McLaren, they were talking in the preseason last year saying, hey, this is a really good car, and we know great drivers capitalize on having that good of car. Now, what are the chances now? All right, so hold on, a question for you first. Do you think Max will win the title this year?
I think he most likely will win the title at the end of the day. Max is his own worst enemy, and with him, it's not so much whether he will win the title. It's like whether does he want to win the title. He seems to be leaning a little bit more toward. He's always stated, even from his first year, that he doesn't want to be like another Michael Schumacher or Lewis Hamilton with seven titles. He's going to get to the point where he's like, yeah, I'm still young. I can retire from the sport and go race in other things. He may even try to do the win an IndyCar, win a Le Mans. And so I think that's kind of where depending on this year and how much they bother him. Right. They started getting on him last year with how his speaking through the microphone and all of that. They started fighting for that. They didn't like kind of his attitude. So he may wind up just saying this is it this year.
That's crazy to think.
But it's definitely going to be his championship.
Man,
if he wants it.
That's crazy. It's like you win so much, you're like, okay, I'm tired of this crap. Let me go do something else. That's how you know. That's how you know you've won too much. Now, we know McLaren, Lando, Oscar Piastri are the other two top drivers on the other top team. They won the Constructor Championship last year. What are the chances you think they could sweep the Constructor and Driver Championship this year?
I mean, that's a good question. Because you do with the shakeup of kind of how the drivers have changed a little bit this year. The
huge shakeup.
You've got, McLaren has caught up, with Zach Brown at the head of McLaren. They've really caught up. They've got a solid car. You got two really, really solid racers. So could they win the Constructors again? I would say they probably got a better shot than everyone else. But when it comes down to the drivers' championship, Lando is one of the most talented drivers I've ever seen. But I just do not think that he is like Max Verstappen, that has that killer instinct. Max just does not care. He wins at all cost. He
Whatever it
still has
takes.
whatever it takes to win. Max will win. Lando's not that big of an asshole yet. He's still a nice guy. So, and I really do think that that will hold him back until he learns how to move past that.
Ah, man, that's deep. And all these guys are so young. So speaking of the young guys,
rookies
on the grid, we have what, 4 rookies on the grid?
Five this year.
5. It's Jack Doohan.
That's Jack Doohan.
Jack Doohan. My bad. Oliver Behrman.
Yep.
Gabriel Bortoleto.
Yep.
Liam Lawson, and
Liam's not really a rookie. I wouldn't call Liam a rookie. He did step into Daniel's seat last year.
All right.
Or Daniel Ricciardo's seat last year. So he's not really a rookie per se. So your real rookies are going to be, Ollie Behrman, Jack Doohan, Bertoletto. I think his name is Isaac.
Hadar,
yeah. And then you have
Antonelli
and Kimi Antonelli. That's your true 5 rookies that are this year. And, Behrman had a little bit of a taste of it last year when he subbed in. Doohan did just a little bit as well when he kind of stepped in for, when they replaced Esteban Ocon at Alpine. He stepped in for the last couple of races of the year. So they've got a little bit of a taste on the grid, but some of these guys, they're F2. They're going great in F2 and F3, but F1's a different world.
It's time for the big leagues. Oh my goodness.
They're in the big leagues, and an interesting thing, like with like Jack Doohan, his father was the greatest GP 500 motorcycle racer that's ever lived. So, he's got racing in his blood. I'm surprised he's on 4 wheels versus 2 wheels because his father was is like a legend.
Yeah. Now, is that the guy you told me started driving a bike with his fingers or something?
Driving a bike after he broke his ankle, he had to start using his hand brakes and brake stuff for his hands because he couldn't use his feet anymore.
Oh man, that's insane. It was still winning.
Unstoppable.
Oh my gosh, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard. All right. And you said this Antonelli kid, he hasn't had a true taste of this, man.
Not really. And I'm really kind of shocked they took him. He's very talented. There's no doubt that he is a very talented driver. It's got a good background coming into Mercedes. It's just shockingly they put him at that Mercedes seat, right underneath George Russell. Because he is unproven, and he's replacing technically Lewis Hamilton, and so you're talking about the current legend of the sport, and how are they going to handle this? And he's in a full works automobile with a lot of backing and a lot of spotlight on him. On a team that has been in decline the last couple of years until the end of last year, they started stepping back up and the Mercedes started becoming a threat. So, based off of what I've seen in testing for this year, the Mercedes is solid. It could be the Silver Arrows could be the team.
Oof, y'all heard it here, guys. You hearing it here? And I know they were interested in signs last year. So why did Ferrari let Carlos go? I mean, I know it's like if Hamilton is available, that's an easy decision. But why? Like, what was up with that?
That was one of those where it's any team in the world. It could have been Red Bull. It could have been any team in the world out there that could sign Lewis Hamilton, even for 1 to 2 years. you're going to let go one driver. Carlos Sainz is an excellent driver. He's definitely equal to Leclerc on the team, but I really think that it was his contract was over that year, so he was the easiest one to let go. And so any team out there would chop off their left arm to get Lewis Hamilton in your car.
Right. Yeah, I see what you're saying. That made it easy to let go of Sainz, because Leclerc he finished third?
Yeah,
third in the standings last year.
Leclerc's their number one driver. I mean, Sainz was always the second driver. And Leclerc he's a potential champion, and Ferrari has made a lot of strides in the last couple of years, and with Lewis Hamilton on the team, it should be quite interesting to see how it all shakes up.
Yeah, I'm thinking about that. Like, is Leclerc still going to be the one driver in this situation? Like, what?
That's the weird situation, because last year Hamilton actually took the second seat over George Russell was technically the number one driver.
Russell, okay. So Lewis, he's taken the second seat before. So
can we stop for 1 second? I got a work thing I have to take care of.
Yeah, of course.
All right, perfect.
I'm gonna pause real quick, guys. Hey guys, sorry about the quick break, but we're all good. We're on four wheels right now. We're still right. All right. So we're talking about Lewis Hamilton to Ferrari, how that's going and all. So I saw an interview with drivers. They're talking about their favorite track. What's your favorite track? Oh. What's that? My bad. I had you muted. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
what'd you say?
I said, that's a good question, because there's a couple of them that are just some of my favorites out there. Classically, you have to love Monaco. Monaco is just that race. It's the crown jewel of the entire F1 world. But one of my other favorites, I really, really love Singapore. It's one of those races that is brutal. It's hot. It's long. It really tests the drivers a lot. And it's one of those tracks that just reach out and bite you at any moment, and then you're gone. Then you're out of the race. So those are my favorites. Those have always been my favorites. I should say the U.S. tracks, but honestly, Miami's okay. Austin's pretty good, but in Las Vegas is just it's just a sideshow for a circus.
Right. Now, which one? This is the one you told me that it rains a lot every freaking time? Belgium?
Yeah, Spa. Almost every year, Spa rains. And it's interesting to watch it in the rain, but it's also kind of boring and slow.
Right. It's not quite the same exciting action. Right. Okay. Yeah, they were talking about Monaco. And then what are some other good ones? Japan. So well, you said
you got Baku, which is another street circuit, kind of like Monaco, which is a really good race too. And you've got guys that are really good at the street circuits. Last year we had Sergio Perez and a few guys that were experts at that. And those are really tough tracks. That's a lot of very tight corners. It's run through cities. Not an actual groomed racetrack. So it is through city streets. It's run at the same speeds, but the corners are worse and very, very narrow.
Yes, that's just crazy to think that, bro. Those turns they have to going that fast. It's just, man, that stuff is just incredible.
It's the engineering of those cars is unbelievable.
It's tip top. All right. Now another thing. So more so the bottom tier teams. Who are some bottom tier teams like Alpine, and who else? Is Aston Martin one at the moment?
Well, at the moment, you're probably your worst team is going to be on the field is going to be the Stake team. Or Sauber Stake. They are probably going to be your worst team this year. Their car is underpowered. Their car showed very underpowered through testing. They were a minimum of a full second off of everyone else. They really just don't seem to have it in order. And again, it's a year for Sauber. That it will be next year. Will be in the 2026 season. Will be the Audi team. So their development and all of that in the car is probably more geared toward the 2026 car than making the 2025 car competitive. So
okay.
The two drivers they have, which they have one of the rookies, and they have Nico Hulkenberg, and he's a good driver, but he's really waiting for the 2026 year when the regulations change. The cars are going to be a little bit different, and he's anticipating it to be a really competitive car by then. Otherwise, he probably would have stayed at Haas.
Okay. So all right. So you mentioned the regulations. Now, wasn't that like a bit of a reason why the Mercedes car kind of fell off the top with their thing?
That is, they changed the aerodynamic regulations in I believe it was the 2022 season, where the Mercedes car and actually most of the other cars on the team were porpoising down the track. They could not stay consistent, and it's taken them a while to change the way that's working. So they changed the flow and the aerodynamics, the front wings, to where a lot of people thought they weren't getting enough action on the track. They weren't able to get close enough to each other because the dirty air, if you get too close behind the car with all the dirty air, you would get loose. You wouldn't be able to have the power. It's just making your car worse. So they changed all those regulations to stop all that, so they can actually race a little bit closer. But in doing so, it took everybody a while to figure out how to stop those cars from porpoising. But the next change is going to be even more unique, because they're coming from, with the current hybrid, the turbo hybrid they have now, the turbo V6 hybrid they have now, they're going to move to another, still going to be in a 1.6 turbo V6 hybrid, but it's going to have it's going to be almost 50% produced by electrical. So it's going to be a battery powered, where they recapture a lot of power through braking, through everything else. They're recapturing the energy they use the batteries for, overtakes and such. So they're wasting some of that now. So now it's going to be completely recapturing all of that energy, and it's supposed to be net zero carbon fuel. So it's all going to be sustainable fuel run in the cars for 2026. So it should be interesting. And so that's where you're looking at this year. Some of the teams are, your top teams have already got their 2026 car. They have the budget to kind of keep it.
Damn, they already got it chilling.
It's been chilling for 2 years. It's in development. They're getting it where it needs to be to get it ready. They have the budget. They have the money. They have the money to keep the current car up to date so they can win another title or whatnot and compete, for the prize money. And then, like your lower tier teams, they just don't have budget. So they're gonna stop the development to some degree on their 2025 car to move on to focus on the 2026.
Now, does that have a lot to do with it's in sports, it typically does. Like baseball, there's no salary cap. You see the top guys like the Mets, Dodgers, Yankees just buying all the big bats and big arms. Now, I see that. I'm seeing the correlation here. So there is a similar. Oh, so there is a.
There is a cost cap. There's a cost cap that each team can have. A couple of years ago, 2021 and such, I believe Mercedes, Red Bull, maybe even Ferrari, their budget was $450-500 million just for the cars and all of that. They cost capped that. I believe it was 150 or 125. I don't remember the exact number, so you can't quote me on that. But they cost capped everyone to make the teams all more competitive, where not one team could just buy a title, essentially.
Really? Okay.
So they did try to step in and do that. And then there's the prize money rankings. Your bottom teams do not get as much prize money, so that you'll have some of the
rich get richer.
The rich get richer on that one. And then you have your midfield teams, which to them, the midfield is everyone. Okay, you got your top three. There's always going to be three teams that are just phenomenal. your top 3 teams are always going to be just the best there is out there. And they are going for and they know that the prize money is higher. I mean, we're talking between finishing positions, first, second, third, is tens of millions of dollars per position that you finish up the ranking. So that's how much the prize money is for each team. So when they get down into the your lower tier teams, a single point can be $10 million in difference in how much their prize money is.
Wow. We talking slim margins here.
Slim margins. I mean, because
for a lot of money.
For some of those guys don't, they don't score a point. If you don't finish in the top 10, you score nothing. And so they race all season without a single point. There's a few teams that will catch one here and there, and that'll take a bottom tier team up to 7th, 8th place, maybe even 6th place, because they got a couple points. Williams, and so this year it's going to be interesting because Sauber is definitely on the bottom. Haas is definitely hard to figure out what's going to get with Haas this year. They could have a solid team. They got but they do have a principal that's only been running the team. Last year was his first year after they got rid of Gunter, and then this will be a second year, and you've got pretty much Esteban Ocon, which is a good driver. So they do have a solid veteran on the team. But I think Behrman's he's just a rookie. I mean, he's really a rookie. And so it should be interesting how they go from there. But Alpine seems to have a better car this year, so they might be a good midfield team. That should be interesting how that all shakes out as we go forward, because those are probably your last year, your 3 lowest level teams. Williams is going to be. I really do think Williams is going to really compete this year to be a really top of the midfield, or what they call the best of the next, or the best. The best of the rest. They'll definitely be I think in competition for the best of the rest this year with Sainz and Albon in there. They got solid team. James Vowles coming from Mercedes. They got a solid Mercedes backing, because that is sort of the Mercedes junior team. And I think they really will compete well this year.
Oh, wow. All right. Hey, we're going to find out pretty soon.
Yeah.
And can you tell me, who is that? All right, who was the one guy? I think I forgot what team it was, either Sauber or who was it? They bought back. He was their principal like 15 years ago. He won the championships with Shoemaker.
Flavio,
yes.
He's back, and he's at Alpine. And now that's where Alpine could change drastically, because that man gets what he wants, and he is at the time the most winning driver, or winning principal that had been in Formula One up in at the time. Now he's also, a lot of people call him a cheat, because there was the
crash
with Piquet. That he crashed the car intentionally. So there's a lot of that out there. But when it comes to he was the reason it took Carlos Sainz so long to sign with Williams, because when he called him, he's like, there's a chance. But Flavio could change Alpine a lot. They could be a force to be reckoned with this year. He's got that kind of power, and he's got that kind of know-how.
Wow. That's big time. One guy coming in there that's not the driver, just shaking things up like that.
Yes, just someone that they who knows this sport so well, and knows exactly what it takes to get drivers to do the job that they need to do. Like I think we were talking about earlier with McLaren. One of the biggest problems with McLaren is you got 2 drivers who are going to compete for the title, and they're going to race each other. And they're probably, I would say this year, I don't see Piastri or Orlando following team orders very well.
Ooh, all right, this season's going to get feisty.
I believe those 2 are going to be each other's own worst enemies on the track. They got to contend with Max and Lewis and everyone else, but they also got to fight with each other. Every other team, for the most part, one of the drivers knows their role. They know to step back, and that's where Liam Lawson will be this year. He'll definitely be the number 2 driver for Red Bull. Whether or not he wants to accept that, it won't take him long before Max puts him quickly in his place.
Damn. It's like, young buck, this is my track.
Yeah.
Look, I can show you how to do this. You just need to sit back for a little second.
That's exactly right. In the next year could be him.
All right. Sweet, man. I really appreciate you coming on here.
Absolutely.
Dropping this knowledge, being a part of We the Champs. This is way past due.
Yeah, absolutely. We got the race on Sunday, and we can set up another follow-up how we did on the next week. So what our predictions are. I do think Red Bull will win it, and I think McLaren will be right behind them.
All right.
It's gonna be a tight race. It's gonna be interesting.
All right. He just gave y'all the pick for this weekend. Pick Max Verstappen plus.
Always.
I think he's plus 270, or just pick him every weekend. You'll definitely come up positive.
You're definitely going to be in the positive.
All right, guys. We appreciate y'all tuning in. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification, and get ready to rev your engines this weekend.
Sounds good.
We the Champs. We out. Thank you.